Welcome to the Repugen Podcast, where we transform patient care.
Welcome back to another episode of the Repugen Podcast. Again, here with you is Jennifer with my co-host John. Today we are covering how to improve your visibility in Google AI overviews for healthcare. Okay, this is one of those shifts that I think a lot of healthcare practices still don't fully realize is happening.
Yeah, like quietly happening right in front of them.
Exactly. A patient searches best cardiologist near me, and before they even scroll, before they click a website, before they compare reviews,
Google's already giving them an answer.
one answer, one summary, one recommendation.
And if your practice isn't included in that AI-generated response, you may not even make it into the patient's consideration set.
That's the scary part. We've spent years talking about SEO, rankings, local search, but AI overviews completely change the way visibility works in healthcare.
And honestly, this isn't theoretical anymore. The numbers are already huge. According to West Health and Gallup, over 66 million Americans have already used AI tools for healthcare information.
Which is wild.
Right? And Repugen's own research found that almost 40% of patients are now using AI directly, either instead of traditional search or alongside it, when researching healthcare providers.
So the question isn't, will AI affect patient decisions? That ship has sailed.
Long gone.
The real question is, how does Google decide which healthcare providers show up inside those AI answers?
And more importantly, how do you become one of them?
So let's break this down, because I think there's still confusion around what Google AI overviews actually are.
Yeah, people hear AI search and assume Google just replaced search results entirely.
But healthcare's a little different. Google's being way more cautious here than in other industries.
For good reason, honestly. Healthcare falls under what Google calls YYL, your money or your life.
Which sounds dramatic.
It really does.
But basically it means healthcare content can directly impact someone's health, safety, or well-being, so Google applies its strictest trust standards.
Exactly. And that's where EEAT comes in. Experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness.
Which, let's be honest, sounds like alphabet soup at this point.
SEO people love acronyms.
They really do.
But the principle matters. Google's AI systems are trying to determine whether a healthcare provider is credible enough to trust in a synthesized answer.
And what's interesting is that AI overviews don't appear equally across all healthcare searches.
This part surprised me. BrightEdge research found that AI overviews have basically disappeared from local provider intent searches.
Meaning searches like dentist near me or pediatrician in Chicago.
Exactly. Those still rely heavily on traditional local search results and the map pack.
But informational healthcare searches?
Totally different story. AI overviews are showing up constantly for searches about symptoms, treatments, conditions, medications.
Sometimes in over 90% of those searches.
Which means AI is influencing patients earlier in the decision journey.
That's the key insight.
Patients may not choose their doctor directly from an AI overview, but the AI shapes who they trust before they ever do a local search.
So by the time they type cardiologist near me, they may already have a provider or practice type in mind.
Exactly.
All right, so let's get practical. What actually influences whether a healthcare practice appears inside Google AI overviews?
There are really 4 major signals.
And the first one is credential clarity.
This one's huge. Google needs to clearly understand who you are and why you're qualified.
Which sounds obvious, but you'd be shocked how many healthcare practices are vague.
Oh, completely. You'll go to a physician bio and it'll say something like, Dr. Smith is passionate about patient care.
Okay, but what does Dr. Smith actually specialize in?
Exactly. Where did they train? Are they board certified? How many years of experience do they have?
Google's AI can't infer expertise if the information isn't clearly structured and visible.
And if another provider has cleaner, more verifiable credentials online, Google's more likely to trust them.
This is where healthcare practices sometimes underestimate how machine-readable their information needs to be.
Right. Humans can figure things out. AI systems don't work that way. They need clarity.
And consistency.
Which brings us into the second signal, reviews.
Ah, yes. Everybody's favorite topic.
But reviews are no longer just social proof. They're AI trust signals now.
That's such an important distinction.
Google systems look at review volume, recency, star ratings, and even engagement behavior.
Meaning, are you responding to reviews?
Exactly. Repugen's survey found that nearly 60% of patients trust providers more when they see responses to reviews.
Which makes total sense psychologically.
Totally. If a practice actively responds, patients interpret that as attentiveness and accountability.
And apparently, algorithms are starting to interpret it that way too.
Especially in healthcare, where trust matters so much.
There was another interesting point in the data. Competitive healthcare markets are increasingly clustering around ratings above 4.6 stars.
And often between 150 and 300 reviews.
Which sounds intimidating for smaller practices.
It can, but consistency matters more than spikes. A steady stream of recent reviews signals that your practice is active and relevant.
Plus, patients care a lot about freshness now. Huge point. About 40% of patients consider reviews older than 1 to 2 years irrelevant. Which, honestly, I kind of get. Same. A review from 2019 doesn't necessarily reflect today's patient experience. Okay, third signal, structured data. This is the technical piece that a lot of practices ignore because it sounds complicated. Yeah, schema markup instantly makes people tune out. It does sound painfully technical, but the concept is simple. Structured data helps Google interpret your website accurately. Right, it tells search engines things like, this is a physician, this is a medical specialty, this is the office location. It removes ambiguity. And research suggests pages with strong structured data are significantly more likely to appear in AI overviews. Which makes sense because AI systems thrive on clean, organized information. But honestly, the bigger issue we see isn't just missing schema markup. It's inconsistency. Exactly. Different addresses on different listings, slightly different practice names, wrong phone numbers. Google sees fragmented information and starts losing confidence. There's actually a term for it, the fractured entity problem. Which sounds like a sci-fi movie. It really does. But it's serious. If your Google business profile says one thing, your website says another, and Healthgrade says something else. Google's AI struggles to confirm they all refer to the same practice. And when confidence drops, visibility drops. The fourth signal might actually be the most overlooked. Content quality? More specifically, content that directly answers patient questions. This is where healthcare websites often miss the mark completely. Because a lot of content is written from the provider's perspective instead of the patient's perspective. Exactly. Patients aren't searching, our clinic offers advanced cardiovascular services. They're searching, what symptoms mean I should see a cardiologist? Or what happens during a heart screening? AI overviews prioritize content that gives complete, self-contained answers. That phrase, self-contained, matters. Huge. If your content can answer the question clearly in one section, Google can easily extract and summarize it. Whereas vague marketing language doesn't help AI at all. And honestly, it doesn't help patients either. Fair point. One thing I found really interesting is how patient behavior itself is evolving. Yeah, the AI adoption numbers are moving fast. Repugen's data showed that once patients start using AI tools, more than half of their provider research happens through AI. Which suggests this isn't just a novelty behavior. Exactly. It becomes their primary research method. And the questions patients are asking are incredibly revealing. Right. Symptom research, medication side effects, nutrition guidance, treatment options. These are decision-making moments. A patient researching symptoms is often already evaluating who they'll trust next. Which means healthcare content strategy is no longer just blogging for SEO. It's about becoming a trusted source inside AI ecosystems. That's such a big mindset shift. So let's talk strategy for a second, because this creates a really interesting dual search environment. Meaning AI search versus local search? Exactly. AI overviews influence early-stage trust and education, while traditional local SEO still determines final provider selection and bookings. So practices can't abandon local SEO fundamentals. Not even close. Google business profiles, reviews, local optimization, all of that still matters enormously. But now there's this additional layer where your broader digital credibility impacts whether AI systems even mention you. Which means reputation management, content strategy, and technical SEO are no longer separate conversations. They're interconnected now. Completely interconnected. I think this is where a lot of healthcare organizations feel overwhelmed, though. Because maintaining consistency across everything is hard at scale, especially for multi-location practices or healthcare groups. Reviews, directories, physician bios, structured data, website content, it becomes operationally messy very quickly, which is why this often isn't a strategy problem, it's a systems problem. Exactly. The practices that win here are the ones creating repeatable systems around reputation management and digital consistency. Consistent review generation, consistent responses, consistent listings, consistent physician information. Because AI systems reward consistency. All right, before we wrap up, let's run through a quick mental checklist for healthcare practices listening right now. Love this. First, is your Google business profile fully completed and regularly updated, including specialties, provider details, and recent photos? Second, are you consistently generating recent patient reviews? Not once every 6 months, ongoing. Third, are you actively responding to reviews, including negative ones? That responsibility itself builds trust. Fourth, is your information identical everywhere online? Website, Google, Healthgrades, ZocDoc, all of it.
Fifth, does your website actually answer patient questions clearly? In plain language, not corporate healthcare jargon. And finally, are your physician profiles complete, verifiable, and transparent? Credentials matter. Expertise signals matter. I think the biggest takeaway here is that Google AI overviews aren't random. Not at all. They're built on trust signals. And healthcare practices absolutely can influence those signals. Through reputation, through consistency, through expertise, through patient-centered content. The practices that adapt early are probably going to gain a massive visibility advantage over the next few years.
Because patients are already changing how they search.
And AI is increasingly shaping who earns their trust before they ever book an appointment.
Which means if your practice isn't showing up in those AI-driven moments, you may already be losing patients without realizing it.
That's the reality.
All right, that's a wrap for today's episode.
If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe to the Repugen podcast for more insights on healthcare reputation management, patient experience, and the future of digital healthcare visibility.
And if you want to understand how your practice actually stacks up online, reviews, reputation signals, local visibility, all of it,
you can check out Repugen's reputation scorecard and see where the gaps are.
Thanks for listening to the Repugen Podcast, your path to better healthcare.